And welcome to the Sketch Zone podcast. I am Carlos Gomez, and with us this week we have one of my heroes, one of my podcasting heroes from Tall Tale Radio Podcast, Tom Racine.
Oh, wonderful. You're already better than every podcast I've ever done, just with that sound effect. Wow.
Well, we have a studio audience.
We haven't started yet.
Bar, my friend. Raise the bar.
Yeah, we have a little audience. We tell them to clap on command. Pay them
We did this. Yeah, this is like All in the Family. We're recorded in front of a live studio audience.
Mm-hmm.
And with us we have my trusty steed, Charlie B. Williams III.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. I'm gonna send out a pause because you have never ridden me ever in your life. I am a black stallion though.
Oh Lord!
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Lord.
See what I did there? See what I did there?
Can I tell that story about when we were at Buffalo Wild Wings?
Which one?
That's just the title alone.
The one where I was holding Charlie's phone, and his wife was texting him without knowing that it was me with the phone.
Yeah, that was. Yeah.
Yeah.
Carlos grew up that day.
That was I saw some things I cannot unsee. I didn't see. I read.
Whoa, read. Whoa, you're trying to get me killed here.
Sorry, Monica. Love you.
Carlos became a man that day. I understand.
Hairs did come out of my chest that day.
Mm-hmm. I understood the power. Just call it Into the Blackness. Let's move on.
Subject.
Let's
Jack
move on.
Kasperzak is here.
Yes, I am, and I've got nothing to follow that.
Yeah.
I just send you a text message. Make you a man yet.
Oh boy.
See what happened to Carlos.
So you remember how I said Tom Racine was here, and I really loved having him on the show.
Well,
let's clean it up just a touch.
Maybe you don't call your co-host a steed.
Yeah, really. Look, we're 5 minutes in. We're off the rails. That's awesome.
You're like Charlie. You're like an onion. You have a lot of layers.
What does this mean? Shut up. I'm just gonna call Jack my unicorn. How's that? We'll just keep going with this. You're my elusive unicorn.
Speaking of unicorns, I told you I
You
have
don't
a
like
squatty
that?
potty, right?
Oh, that's weird.
You're all about this thing.
Don't bring that back up. You don't really use it. You really don't use it.
I do, as much as I possibly can. But that's not what we're here for. We're here to talk to Tom. Tom is like, oh Lord. We've
got
talked
real
about
weird.
trusty steeds. We've talked about squatty potties. Hey Tom, have you ever heard of the squatty potty?
My daughters absolutely adore that video. I've seen that video probably 22 times.
Because of the unicorn. The soft serve is amazing.
Oh yeah, I love it. I think as a video guy, I'm like, that's brilliant. You know, they took this concept, which is a fun, it's a great concept, and they said, let's just run with this. Let's just make this as out there as we can. I was like, good for you, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, because you got to understand in the meetings when they said, "Yo, this is what we have."
How do
They
we
were
market?
like, how do we market?
How do we market this? Someone said rainbows and unicorns. We got to get the kids.
I think I said that to my daughter. I said, because I try to give her some insight into the illustrator world. She likes to do art, and I keep talking about her about the real art. I said, I always think about the point where some guy had to sit in a meeting and say, you know what we should do? But it's rainbows, and everybody's looking at him like, what? Who brought this guy? Who's this? But it works.
And the guy at the head
That's like who was in the room when they were pitching Buick, and they said, all right, Buick, this is what we're going to do. We're going to say, buy a Buick, because it looks nothing like a Buick. And someone was like, yes. Yes, that's what we want.
I just went to the auto show last week too. That's hilarious because I still hate Buick. They had a nice booth. No one likes Buick. It's like no one likes a Kia.
I don't know why. Kias are...
They got a new car that looked kind of cool, but it's a Kia then. But then you think about it, you're like, it's a Kia though.
Yeah.
But cheap.
They're on the come up though.
Are they?
Yeah. All right. So, more importantly, hey Tom,
Yes, sir.
I am on level 1030 on Candy Crush. What level are you on?
Really?
1030. I'm impressed. I am here to tell you that in my family, it is my wife who's addicted to those games. I have literally never played Candy Crush once. So
You're a better man for
Your
it.
wife is a
I think
lovely
it's more like I
person,
dodged
and
the bullet.
she
Yeah, I
deserves
saw
the
one of those
best.
bullying people, and I just stayed out of it. Yeah.
I mean, Tom, most people stop playing it after 20 minutes or after they get off their train stop. No one really goes that high because Carlos just hadn't realized that they just keep repeating levels.
It's because people like Charlie need a life. They need to get their Candy Crush on.
What?
He's busy using his phone for really good texts, apparently. So I don't know.
Yeah.
That's
My
true.
texts are life changing.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
They are. That's why I play Candy Crush now.
My therapist told me to play Candy Crush.
The pressure was too much. I had to change.
My eyes, they burn.
It's a lot of pressure being me. I have a lot of responsibility. Moving on.
So let's talk about growing up with Tom Racine. Tom, where are you from originally?
Well, as I don't know if you can see the shirt, but it says I escaped New York.
Oh, nice.
I did escape New York. One of my favorite.
You did.
Good job.
Yeah, I was born in New York. My whole family's from New York. My dad was a cop in New York for 33 years, and
Oh, wow.
when I was 11, he retired. He was an older father. I'm the youngest of 6 boys, and
Whoa.
he
That
reti-
was a zoo.
yeah. Everybody, the first thing everybody says is, "Oh, your poor mother."
How'd you
up.
survive? You're the
My
youngest.
mom was a 5-foot-tall, Irish descent lady with a cigarette in her mouth, and she scared the hell out of all of us. So I don't know.
That's how you survive, yeah.
I wasn't really for mom very much. The joke is that there were 3 levels of discipline in my family. It was mom, and then it was dad, and then it was mom again. You got to mom again, yeah, you're
You're in trouble.
5, yeah. So when I'm 11, 1977, the banner year of when Star Wars comes out, we moved to Arizona. My dad retired and had this overwhelming urge to play golf, so he moved to Arizona. And that was a bit of a shock for an 11-year-old from New York. But
After being a cop for 33 years in New York, especially.
yeah, especially in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. Not
did-
the highest
Yeah.
time for New York. Yeah. Dad was a B-17 pilot in World War II.
Oh,
And
wow.
35 missions, and then he was a cop because it was easier, apparently. I don't know.
A little better on the nerves.
I draw cartoons thanks to my dad's ability to do these things. So that was pretty cool. But yeah, so I grew up in Arizona mostly is really where I figure I grow up. But then I moved back to New York with my wife in 1995. We lived there for about 11 years in the city.
Wow.
Oh,
So
wow.
that was cool. Yeah, we had a lot of fun.
Kind of always wanted to go back.
Yeah, it was one of those things where I wasn't quite sure. I turned into a Westerner. I just really liked being out west. And she's from San Diego. I met her in San Diego. And she's an actress. She's a singer-actress. And we actually ended up moving back to Phoenix because I got an art director job or something like that, and it didn't really pan out. And I said, well, why don't we try New York? She wanted to try the Broadway thing. And I was like, what the hell? We didn't have kids at the time. And so we moved to New York, and we just did it. It was fun. We basically just got there and found an illegal sublet and, and stayed there. Then we moved to Astoria. It was great. I mean, we had a great time. We traveled.
Tom and his wife would be home. Someone would walk in and say, "What the hell are you doing in my house?"
That's a squat. It's an illegal / sort of illegal sublet. But it was a great time. We had a really, really good time in New York. I miss New York a lot, actually.
What were you doing professionally at the time that gave you the flexibility to do that?
Well, I'm a graphic artist. I'm an illustrator, graphic artist, and at the time, like I said, I did an art director job in Phoenix, which didn't pan out for a small company, and then so I found myself sort of in between things. And I went to New York because I had a friend, and I crashed on her couch, and basically I looked around, and there was a lot of temp work at the time, and I had done a ton of Mac stuff, a lot of page layout design, and I found a job pretty quickly. Actually, it was a good time. Prior to 2001, 9/11, there was a lot of work, actually, so I actually ended up doing pretty well there. And Kim did pretty well as an actress. She got many callbacks. She was cast in Les Mis, and then Les Mis closed, and so she didn't get to be in Les Mis. She was down to the last callback for Mamma Mia, and then they decided that she was too young to be the mom and too old to be the kid, so she couldn't do much.
Can I be the cousin? The aunt?
Background. Acting, don't go into acting is all I can say.
Yeah.
But it was a lot of fun. We had a great time there, and I gained a lot of experience as a package designer. I worked in the toy industry and all that kind of stuff. And then
Cool.
post 9/11, I got work in television. I started doing some live television and helping out directors and doing stuff. And I got to travel to Egypt for a TV show and stuff like that. So it was
crazy.
great. Then we had kids and everything ended. You know, that's how it goes.
Kids ruin everything.
Wait, what?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh no.
Charlie's family just announced that they're going for round 2. They didn't learn the first time.
Ah, well. 2 is good. 2 is good. I like 2.
That's it. That's it. Done.
Yeah.
Done.
I thought about 3. I'm an older father. We we didn't have kids until I was 38 or 39. And somebody always told me that the difference between 2 and 3 is when you go from man-to-man defense to zone.
Nice.
Stay away from the zone defense. Stay
That's
no.
awesome.
It's so good.
Smack the closest kid.
Exactly, because then there's always one that can get away. You're like, that was the third one. I forgot about the third.
I grew up with, it was, I have an older brother, me, and a baby sister. And my mom would come home. I thought it was my job to get hit. She would come home and just grab the first kid that was there. I know you did something. And I was always too slow to move.
You should learn. I don't be by the door, man. Be upstairs, not door.
It's 4 o'clock. What are you doing? Too late.
Yeah.
He's on his own. He's got to learn.
That's it.
Is that your older brother tricking you? Go stand by the door, Carlos. Yeah, he'll be fine.
Yeah. Yeah. As time goes by, I learned that I was a stupid kid. We tell stories, and my brother's like, "Well, you just never said anything," so I kept blaming you. Like, come on.
It was just easy.
It works. Man, I was the youngest of 6. I know. I didn't trust me. I got my share of blame.
Yeah, I don't know how you survived. You got
I know. How do you do that?
Well, you know,
Well,
and it's all boys too. But the thing is, there was a lot of distance between me and my next oldest brother. There was a huge spread between us. My eldest brother was 20 years older than me.
oh,
And then even my next oldest brother, the one I was closest to, was 6 years older than me. So most of my brothers were out of the house by the time I kind of really grew up. So I didn't really grow up in a big, crazy household. You know, it was more like in a way I grew up kind of alone in a big family. It was. I think that helped me as an artist, quite frankly. But it avoided a lot of the poundings. My brother Don and I went through a time in high school. That was not a good time, but we ended up coming out of it pretty well. So.
So you're talking about the solitude lending itself to being an artist. Did you always want to be an artist?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I've been drawing since I was like 5. I have that typical story of, you know, I was drawing in kindergarten, and I remember doing a train. We had to do a scene of a train, and at that age, I was already figuring out perspective, so the train looked like it was going off in the distance. And a teacher did something. I always tell the story because it cracks me up now that I have kids. And you shouldn't do this as a teacher. Don't ever do this as a teacher. But it was one of those things where she chose like the 4 best and then put us each in a corner and told the kids to vote. And all of them came to my picture. And all I can think of as an adult is like those poor 3 other kids. like, oh man, you know, they probably could have been a great artist. They all went on to like become accountants or something like that. You know, gave up on life after that. But I got a lot of validation out of it, and I was a quiet kid. I'm kind of an extrovert introvert. I like to be alone, and every now and then I don't mind being in front of the camera. But you know, I grew up wanting to be a comic book artist and a cartoonist. Grew up loving comic strips and Burt Breathed and Bloom County and all those guys.
How close did you get?
Well, I've been rejected by all the best syndicates in town. So.
nice.
I don't think I ever came close, really. No. See, my problem is when webcomics started happening, and I guess it was around 2004. There's a site called Sherpa, which was sort of the lower level of Universal UClick. You paid them every month like $4 or something, but they basically hosted the website. And I didn't want to be a web designer, so I just said, yeah, that's great. Here's my $6 or whatever it was. And I did a single panel comic because I was a big Far Side guy. I love the Far Side. Yes, yeah. The Far Side is one that has slipped through the cracks. I think people don't remember the Far Side like they should. Everybody talks about Calvin and Hobbes.
So good.
Yeah.
And it's great and all, but the Far Side, man, the Far Side was the best.
I did pick it over Calvin and Hobbes, though, but yeah, it was really good, though, too.
Yeah, I mean, well, for me it was Bloom County, Far Side, and then Calvin and Hobbes. I love Calvin and Hobbes, but it was Father, Son, and Holy Ghost for me in that sort of order.
Mm-hmm.
But I started doing a single panel called Book Smarts, and it was basically I have an English degree, which I never use, so I was like, yeah, I'll make fun of it. That'd be funny. And so all my stuff is like goofy literary humor that makes me laugh, and one other person goes, "Oh, that's kind of funny." And
They're like, oh, that's cute.
yeah, that's cute. That's kind of funny. So I mean, all of my ideas have never been very syndicatable. The other idea I've always loved, if I had time to do it, was I did a thing called Writer's Block, which was going to be Edgar Allan Poe and William Shakespeare sharing an apartment in an apartment building filled with famous writers. So they would go down, and Ernest Hemingway would be like grilling a giant swordfish, and he was this giant bear of a guy, and Shakespeare was kind of a drunken actor dude, and I said, that's really funny, and 9 people who have English degrees would think it was funny as well, and I would never make a living on it, so kind of gave up on that. Now I just talk to cartoonists. It's easier. Let them do the work, and I talk to them.
Nice.
We'll get to that in a second. I'm always intrigued by the conversation that people have, that artists have when they first approach their parents and say, I want to be an artist. I want to do art for a living. What did your parents tell you?
This is when being the 6th child had an advantage because they paved the road. And my parents were older by the time they got to me. Yeah, like I said, my dad retired when I'm 11. So, he was retirement age. My mom was older and all that. And at that point, I think they were just happy that I was alive. They had sons who got married too young and had kids and all this kind of stuff. And they're just like, Tommy's kind of smart, leave him alone. They
I don't
were
care, kid. Just don't ask me for money.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
there isn't any.
Exactly. He's getting an English grade. He likes cartoons. Oh, we failed.
No, Mom, it's Hemingway.
It's great literature.
They're roommates.
Now I'm going to get a folklore mythology degree too. It'll be great. They were supportive in their own way. I think it was more that they didn't understand it. They didn't know. I mean, they grew up in the Depression. They fought in World War II. My dad was a cop. He has no idea of some idiot sitting around wanting to draw Spider-Man. So they were supportive in the sense of like, they wanted me to go to school. I went to Arizona State, and they were very happy for me to get a degree and all that. And I was naturally interested in computers, and I got very lucky in 1984, the Apple comes out, and that's exactly when I graduated from high school. And I jumped right on the Apple thing and learned all about digital printing. And within a year or two, I was teaching printers how to print with digital printing. They had no idea what the hell's an EPS file, what's a font, So I was very lucky. I was right at that cutting edge of that aspect of things. So I immediately got out of school and got a job at a school district being their illustrator, cartoonist, but also their page layout guy. And I think I proved to them pretty quickly that I could make a living. So they were supportive in that sort of we don't know what you're doing way. So, but they never tried to stop me. They never had sit down and say, "Are you sure? Are you gay?" Anything like that. It was never anything like that. So they were supportive in their own sort of quiet, hands-off way.
Yeah.
They're like, let's just wait and see.
Yeah, just wait and see. Yeah, 1 out of 6 ain't bad. What the hell?
I always like to get people's stories because my family, everyone is a doctor, teachers, just like blue collar, kind of bordering on white collar type of stuff, and one of my younger cousins started going to the school that I had graduated from, the art school that I had graduated from, and we were sitting around the Thanksgiving table, and he's telling everyone how he wants to be in animation and do art and stuff, and everyone's just shaking their head saying, oh my God, how's he ever going to make a living? And I'm like, what the hell?
I'm sitting right here.
I graduated from that school. Yeah, I'm sitting right here.
We've already given up on you.
That's why. That's why they're saying it. They're like, not again.
Oh, you're still here.
Not again. Oh, I thought you were
What
trying
was your
to
name again?
look for a job.
It's me.
They're like, go look for a job.
Right.
Carlos is a cautionary tale. And
They forget about all the success. Oh, yeah, you did all right. Yeah, cool. I think you'll be fine.
I'm like, I'm paying my own bills.
Exactly. That's all I care about.
I have a house. I have a house.
I don't have one of those. Renting. Yeah.
I
Of course,
want my own ass.
I live in San Diego. We don't buy houses here unless you're ridiculously rich or something. I don't know.
Oh, yeah. When I first moved to California, I lived in San Diego for a couple months, I would say. It's beautiful. It's amazing how everything is 20 minutes away.
Yeah.
Whether you're going across the street or across town, everything is 20 minutes away now.
Standard joke. Where do you live? About 20 minutes. It's gorgeous. I love it here. I really do. But yeah, I'm never going to buy a house. It's not even close to reality at this point. So.
Yeah. And then one of the things that I didn't really, maybe I'm racist, maybe I'm not, whatever.
Well, here we go.
I'm sitting on the train. This Mexican lady who is not American is sitting next to me and says, "Can I borrow your phone?" I was like, number one, I don't know you. Number two, I'm going to have to see some papers.
Dang.
Is this going to be
all
a
this
national
different
call? Like, I don't
Spanish?
know what we're doing. I don't know where we're going with this. We just met. We're going a little too fast.
Did she
Wait,
ask
you want to see her AT&T bill? What kind of papers?
Yeah, did
Yeah.
she ask you in
No.
Spanish or something?
Yeah, she
What
did.
raised your awareness that you need to
did.
check for papers?
I
She
did.
did she?
But she's
My
telling you
Trump
for like
alert.
10 minutes. Take the phone from her. You know. Beep 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 beep. Beep.
Yeah.
Okay.
My Trumpometer went off.
You're a Trump.
All right, so let's go back to you're trying to be an illustrator, you're trying to get your comics off the ground, but then you transitioned into hosting a podcast.
Yeah.
But Tall Tale Radio wasn't the first one that you were a part of, was it?
No. That I was a DJ in college, and that was a ton of fun. But I never decided to pursue that. But then something else I did that really prepared me for this was I worked in Arizona. There's a place called Sun Sounds, which is radio reading for the blind. And you would read the newspaper or magazine articles or whatever. And I eventually started a show there for like 10 years. And a friend of mine is still doing it. He's been doing it for like 20 years. Where I would read the New York Times book reviews. And it was great practice to be a cold reader and all that kind of stuff. And in about 2005, after I moved back to San Diego, I started hearing about podcasting because I had literally started thinking about getting into voiceover, getting into radio. And then I read this term podcasting. I'm like, oh, what is that? You know, and it sounded really interesting. And so I contacted my friend Justin Thompson, who does the comic strip Myth Tickle, and he works for the Charles Schultz Company up in Santa Rosa. And he was interested in doing it too. He was a DJ in college as well. But neither one of us knew anything about how to program. We were like not web guys at all.
Mm-hmm.
But was recently on a show by Scott Johnson, who is like the godfather of all podcasters, you know, all hail.
Seriously.
Who I've yet to meet, actually. But his show was really cool, Extra Life Radio. And he's got his own like network now. He's like the king of all podcast media. It's awesome.
Frogpants.com.
Exactly. So, and ironically, I've never met him. I've never really had much interaction with him, but I owe him a lot of my podcasting because he was kind of inspirational. But Justin had been on his show and met one of the co-hosts, Brian Dunaway. And Brian was a web guy. And this is one of my favorite stories. We're all on the phone. We're talking about doing a podcast. And we're all big comic strip guys. We figure, well, there's not a lot of comic strip podcasts out there. And there's a good reason for that because nobody reads comic strips anymore. But that's a different story. But build a niche that didn't need building is basically what we did. But we're all on the phone, and Justin and I are talking about, yeah, it'd be kind of cool. And Brian says, how about comics coast to coast? And I go, yeah, that sounds good. And I hear him typing in the background, and we're talking about, yeah, it'd be kind of interesting to have a website. And then all of a sudden Brian goes, all right, here's the URL. Go check it out. And we're like, nice. You know, and he like built the website as we were talking. I'm like, holy crap, there's a website up there with comics coast to coast. And so I did about 70 episodes with them, and that was fun. I mean, it was a lot of fun to do the three of us talking and interviewing people and stuff like that. And then the opportunity came up. I think it was Mike Whitmer of Pinkerton he decided to do a little like artist collective called Tall Tale Features, and he wanted a podcast. And so it was kind of a chance for me to go off and do my own thing. I wanted to do more in-depth interviews. Brian and Justin and I were doing kind of a morning radio show, which is fun, but I was really interested in meeting the cartoonists and getting to know them and doing that more of a inside the actor's studio type of thing. So it was a chance for me to kind of break out and do my own thing, and that's how that got started. So now the rest is not history because it's not that big a deal.
It's unraveling as we speak.
No.
Right before our eyes.
So you actually have quite the collection. You have over 230 interviews, don't you?
Interviewed 236 tonight. Yeah. So,
236
Whoa.
tonight. Oh.
and
Wow.
Can
yeah,
you
and I've been
can you
com-
share with us who you
yeah, Eddie Pittman of Red's Planet. Eddie worked on.
Oh, I love that comic strip.
Yeah,
It's so well done.
going to be published in April. The book is coming out. So Eddie's
What is it called?
Red's Planet. He has a redsplanet.com. It's a webcomic he's been working on for I think 8 or 9 years actually.
Wow.
It's so well done.
Really?
Oh yeah, no, it's like we were actually Lucas Turnblum and I were talking to him tonight, and it literally was one of those like you go, oh, check this out, and you look at it and you go, whoa, it's like Disney level animation stuff because that's where his background is. His background is Disney animation. He worked on Mulan, he worked on Lilo and Stitch and stuff, and he worked on.
A little red he has here looks like it's something out of a Disney.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, his art style will just go, oh, okay, this guy's serious. We know it. And he's really good. And then about 2 years ago, he pitched the idea, and Abrams Publishing picked it up. So it's he's putting it out in April. So
Trade paperback or like?
Yeah, graphic novel, hardcover, I think, and then it'll go into trade paperback. And yeah, he's got book 2 on the way and all that stuff. So it's taken off for me. Cool, yeah. But yeah, and then I've been to San Diego Comic-Con like the last 7 years, and I've been to New York the last 4 years, and so I've done a lot of interviewing there, a lot of video stuff. So, and then I've been hosting the Kenosha Festival very nicely, so that's been fun. And I'm just, as I always say, I'm not as talented as these guys, but I sound better than all of them combined.
I just sound good.
Work it.
Don't hate. This voice is amazing.
Right.
Tuning disturbing.
Nice. Already got the best sounding episode ever. We get what's her name? Excuse me for forgetting your name.
Oh, Nicole.
We get Nicole.
Nicole.
We get Costa. And you get Tom.
Tom, if you
have
get a
them read
chance,
something.
go back and if you're interested, I'll share the link with you for the Nicole Fazio. She's one of my friends that does voiceovers in LA. And I said, "Hi, Nicole," and she spoke for like 2.5 hours.
It was a blur for you.
But every time she turned it on,
why am I sweating?
yeah. I was so nervous.
I love her.
And then she attacked poor Jack for like the last half of our show.
Oh.
Right.
Yeah.
No,
that
but
was
like,
a lot of fun.
can you imagine just having all of them read something, just back and forth, hold a conversation? Because it was, I don't know, voiceover artists are people who have really good voices anyway. It's always something captivating about it when you're listening to them anyway. So like when she turned it on, we all were just like,
Yeah.
keep going.
Yeah. And she went in and started explaining her different approaches to,
Inner
to doing
voiceover voice.
different.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it was really cool to see.
Yeah, and that's a whole different world. I mean, it's the thing. I mean, I've had a lot of people say I have a nice voice and all that, and it's very nice. I have a very nice voice, but using it is different. And voiceover work is acting. It's you have to be an actor to be a voiceover person, and it's not that easy. I mean, that's
Right.
I don't have any acting background. That's the part I'm still learning.
Mhm.
And I've done some professional work, and I am continuing to try to do more professional work. But that's my weak spot. It's okay to have a nice voice, and I think I'm pretty good off the cuff. But you put a script in front of somebody, and it's different. I mean, it's a whole world.
She said
So-
she's literally exhausted, and you could tell just because we were exhausted by the end of the podcast. But you could,
She
you
still
could
had
tell,
plenty to thank.
you could tell in the script that she's like toiling over that, even though she's selling a car or
Yeah.
whatever she's doing.
Yeah.
It's almost. I've done a couple of those, and
Work
you
the podcast
you're telling to somebody, "Oh yeah, I was tired after doing voice work," and they're like, "What?" And you're like, "No, it was exhausting. It was like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
like everything's in here into the mic," and then you're like, "Oh."
Yeah. I believe her.
Hey Tom, do you sing at all?
She says apparently. So,
Do you sing at all, Tom?
quietly to myself in the shower, in the car.
No
My wife's a
karaoke.
professional singer has always told me I have a very good voice, but I'm serious. I terrible stage fright most of my life.
Ah.
Yeah.
In college, I always tell this story. In college, I dropped out of a class. I went to a class, and one of the first things the teacher said was, by the end of the year, you had to do an oral report in front of people. And this is like a Chaucer class in front of 12 other nerds. and I dropped the class because
Oh wow! Because all you heard was report in front of people.
exactly.
I'm
I was
out.
like, and I was out. I was gone. And I mean, I look back and I was like, God, what the hell was I thinking? It was a freaking Chaucer class. No one was going to be listening to me anyway, you know. But it's just it's a long-term thing, and it's really only until the last few years. And I think it's probably podcasting, which is kind of it's just a classic. You know, you've done it more and more, so you get more confident.
Yeah.
You know, the Kenosha Festival was a big one because I had to be in front of crowds of 150, 300 people. And man, I was terrified that first time. And I still don't love it, but I'm easier at it. Now I know what I'm doing. I feel like, okay, I didn't die. That's good. But it's pretty recent. I'm not a natural actor at all in front of people.
How did that Kenosha thing come about?
Well, through the podcast, I interviewed John Hambrock, who does the comic strip The Brilliant Mind of Edison Lee. And John is an amazing cartoonist, one of my favorite inkers. The guy can draw anything, and so I found the strip because I think he either just got nominated for a Reuben Award, and I was like, oh, this is because I'd never heard of the strip, and then I found it and it was great. And then I had he and his wife Ann was on because Ann colors the strip, so they work together. And Ann is like a cartoon just groupie, aficionado, loves all of the old school stuff. And a couple of years ago, she decided to start a festival in Kenosha. But not really a con, definitely more like a celebration of cartoon art. And she wanted it to be free for everybody, and she was going to have people come in, and she knows everybody in the industry. So it was really pretty good right from the start. I mean, she had very big names, Pulitzer Prize winners, and all this kind of stuff. And she invited me out because they liked me to moderate, to introduce things. And I think the first year she just kind of wanted me to be there to say hi, welcome to the festival kind of thing. But then she realized pretty quickly that I was able to moderate panels and other stuff, and the role has grown quite a bit in the last couple of years, and so it's become kind of a yearly gig now. It's a lot of fun.
That's awesome.
Great festival too. If anybody's in the Midwest, it's really worth going to. It's really, really great.
How different is it from a Comic-Con, let's say?
Well, the focus is much more on the public interacting with the artists. So it's much smaller, more intimate. They have like this really nice library. It holds, I think the room holds like 200, and each artist gets up and does their own little PowerPoint thing for like an hour, and then there's signings everywhere, and there's interaction, and there's events for 3 or 4 days, and it's all very, you know, it's Kenosha, it's a very small town, very Midwestern-y, and so it's just really nice. You know, people come up from Chicago and all that kind of stuff, and it's definitely much more about interacting with the artists and getting to know them. So you'll see the artists who are there signing everybody I've seen who's gone to it has been a trooper. I mean, they'll sign for hours. So just people are just coming by. Jeff Keane from Family Circus was there, and he signed 1 billion things. And Lincoln Person, Big Nate was there. He signed 8 million things, and they're just, it's great. It's much more interactive and very much about cartooning, especially. She really wants the focus to be on not comic books, or I mean, we've had some comic book people, and I think she's expanding out, but her focus mostly was on cartooning. You know, the newspaper and the magazines and that kind of stuff. So it's a very cool way to meet artists in a way you don't get to see very often, I think.
Yeah.
That's right.
And I was I was trying to like in my own brain compare just a regular Comic-Con that everyone is used to going to, and then the Kenosha thing, and just the way that you described it, I just keep thinking that you get more of the artist than you do somewhere else. Because you go to a Comic-Con, it's kind of like usually they have their head down and they're just drawing, and they look up and they're trying to push their merch at you and stuff.
No,
it sounds like this is a little different.
Yeah, I mean, they have a drink and draw that everybody's welcome to. They open up the AO's Pizza Place, and local cartoonists and artists, and everybody hangs out. It's very, very cool. It's very homey. You know, it's very Midwestern. You know, it has a feel very Midwestern. Sort of like, come on over, man. We'll have cheese curls. It's great. You know. You know, I go to cons all the time, and cons are fun, but they're huge. They're giant behemoths, and this is definitely like. And also, she's gotten the community involved, so a lot of the businesses are helping out, and it seems to get a little bigger every year, which is nice, but still in a very small Midwestern way. You know, it's not. I don't think it's ever going to become huge, but you know, their attendance increases every year, and it's really nice. They always have a really good lineup. I forget the exact lineup this year, but I know that Eddie Pittman's going to be there, and Rob Harrell, who does Monster on the Hill and Life of Zarf, and several other syndicated people, and it's always great. It's a great festival.
That's
you have
cool.
Chicago. You need to have people there. Get them there.
Yeah, Jack, you're from kind of that area, huh?
It's from Racine.
Yeah,
right?
this is kind of weird because your name is Tom Racine, and it's in Kenosha, which is right next door.
That's I was telling Tom one of the conversation points I want to figure out. I say Racine, you say Racine, and I don't know how to tell you you're wrong without hurting your feelings.
It all depends on if you're speaking to French people. It's Racine, because it's a very famous name over there. Actually, Racine, Jean-Baptiste Racine is their essentially their Shakespeare. I mean, he was about the same time period as very famous playwright. So you go to France and everybody knows who the hell. Oh, Racine, blah, 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 and I go,
Just like that.
welcome to this name, you know. So, but I say Racine when I'm trying to spell it because it's a 6-letter name, and oh my God, the people, it's like R-A-C, C as in Crete, R-A-C-I, you know. So if I say Racine, they seem to get it better. So I don't know.
Yeah. In Chicago, there's this famous street, Racine.
Yeah, it's where Sean Connery was killed in Untouchables.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, and here you go. I think it was that bar in the very beginning of the Untouchables. The bartender was my English teacher.
Really?
Yeah.
That's great. It's just like bring a knife to a gunfight.
Yeah. My favorite Sean Connery line is when he was playing the dragon, and the guy's like, "I'm gonna kill all the dragons till the last one." He's, "I am the last one."
Yeah. That's how I found
Sean Connery.
Yeah, you hear something and find the voice, and it goes, "I am the last one." That's how I found it.
Yes.
Yes.
That's what happens when a professional does that.
Losers whine about doing their best. Winners go home and fuck the prom queen. That's one of my.
I'm gonna pee.
Really, I can do Patrick Stewart and I can do Brian Blessed. So those are like my only real things.
Those are your go-tos.
I've always wished I could do Christopher Walken. I wish I could do a Christopher Walken, but I can't. I can't do a good.
That would be cool.
More cowbell.
More cowbell. So let's go back to Tall Tale Radio.
Let's go back.
Let's do that.
And not to single anyone out, but
Here we go.
What was the one and maybe it's a couple people where they came on the show and you thought to yourself, "Whoa, this is real. Like I'm actually talking to I'm having one of those moments right now. I'm actually talking to Tom Racine."
Yeah, well, you need to raise your sights. I'm telling you. It's Nicole girl. Now she sounds like somebody you look up to, but other than that, I don't know. You mean if I had like any fanboy moments? Like
yeah.
The first time I had Stefan Pastis on was cool because I knew how popular he was. Pearls Before Swine is probably the last of the rock stars. That's what I always call it, because newspapers are, doing what they're doing, and no one is going to be in 700 papers ever again. And he's the last one, and he is the last one. And see how I brought that around? Circle
There
that.
it is.
This is what it looks like when you have a pro on the show.
And I said before, the Father, Son, and Holy Ghost of Bloom County, Calvin and Hobbes, Far Side. Pearls Before Swine is up there. It's always been one of my favorites. It's certainly one of the newer age, Dilbert, Pearls Before Swine, those guys. Mm-hmm. And so meeting Stefan was a little weird, but he puts you at ease, and he's so weird, and he was essentially interviewing me, and it was like this hour-and-a-half stretch of weirdness. It was awesome, and he's kind of become a friend, and it's kind of cool. But that first one was I was definitely on like, okay, I got to bring my A game, and it all went out the window because he's like Robin. You just say hi, Robin, and then you sit back. And in an hour and a half,
she's like,
Pastis is
totally
Nicole,
yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It just Pastis was just, hey, that's great, Stefan, tell me something. He's gone. And I've met some people in person at cons that have been sort of like, oh wow, check that out. Richard Thompson of Cul-de-sac. I totally fallen in love with cul-de-sac, and this was unfortunately right before he announced he had Parkinson's and had to stop the strip. But I did get to meet him, and he drew in my book and everything, and that was very cool because it was like, wow, Richard Thompson, and he's like the humblest dude on the planet. He could care less about his Richard Thompson-ness, you know. So
Nice.
overall, I have to say, I cartoonists in general have all been that way. I've yet to meet like a jerk cartoonist. I'll be honest with you, I've met a couple of jerk comic book artists, but I think they're a little bit more full of themselves on certain levels because I think they think their art form is higher. I think cartoonists have this sort of general feeling of like, I just draw cartoons, you know, and so they know it's important.
I'm just happy to be here.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they know it makes people laugh. They know it's not like, you know, it's worthless, but I don't think they put themselves on a very high pedestal. I think they're just kind of like, yeah, that's cool. So.
Did you get to talk to Steven Patsis before or after? I blanked on his name. Calvin and Hobbes.
Bill Watterson.
Bill Watterson.
Yeah, no, Patsis was one of my first big gets. I think he was early on. Actually, he was on Comics Coast to Coast first, I think because the connection there, we got lucky, is that Justin, who I mentioned before, Justin Thompson of Mythical, works at the Schultz Museum, and Stefan at the time worked at the Schultz Museum, so they knew each other, they were friends. And then after a while, Stefan got big enough that he decided not to work a day job anymore because now he's a kids book author and he's jetting around the world, you know. But yeah, so I've talked to Stefan since like 2005, so it's been a while.
Wow.
I'll drop him a note every now and then. He's very funny. So he said he told a great story on my podcast. He's been on several times, and the last time he talked about going to Pittsburgh, and he was talking about hanging out. And he went to this one bar, and there was this dwarf who lived in the bar, literally lives in the bar, and he would come out and bring shots, and everybody would do drinks with the dwarf, and he thought it was the coolest thing, and it was like a Pittsburgh thing to do. And he parties with this dwarf like all night long. He goes to the hotel and he gets a phone call the next morning. The dwarf died that night in the bar.
Yeah.
He's telling me this great story. I'm like, and then the dwarf died. I'm like, what? You can't just do that on a podcast, man.
What do I do with this?
I think it was like last week he wrote something on Facebook like, hey, I'll be in Pittsburgh signing. So I sent him a personal message saying, you know, last time you were in Pittsburgh, a dwarf died. And so he wrote back and said, yeah, that's right. I got to watch out. So.
Next week I'll be in Miami.
That's right. If you're under 4'11" in Pittsburgh, watch out.
So I was actually on your podcast a few months ago.
Indeed.
And Lucas Turnbloom. What's that?
You got to meet one of my heroes. Okay. You were on my podcast.
Ba-da-da. Just kidding. And Lucas Turnbloom is on your podcast.
Yeah.
And one of the cool things that has happened since me finding your podcast was being on the show with you, with Irma, with Lucas. And then Lucas said, hey, I'm going to be at the Charles Schultz Museum in the next couple of weeks. And I went up there, and it was just really cool to be like, oh, hey, Lucas, and how's it going? He's like,
got you the stalker.
I'm right. And what sucks is they had the times, they whatever the time was, I think they said from like 1 to 5.
Yeah.
But I got there at 4 because I didn't want to be completely fanboy-y. I mean, I do like Lucas, love Lucas's work. I think when I was on your show last time, I completely kissed his ass because the way he draws a couch is completely phenomenal.
You sounding a little stalkerish right now, Carlos.
Dude, and that's why I waited. I was like, if the thing closes at 5, I'm gonna show up at 4, because if I show up at like 1:30 and I'm just like sitting there like breathing heavy, like, hi Lucas, I didn't want.
This is so scary.
Lucas, I'm watching.
He doesn't want to sign your copy of Ted. Don't bring that.
Nice.
Yeah.
Jack, you really got to keep more closer ties on Carlos a little bit. I know you're farther away, but at least call him in the morning after he gets his medicine. So I show up, but the timing was from like 1 to 4. So I get there and Lucas is packing up, and I was like, hey. He's like, hey, what's going on? I'm packing up. We got to go over there across the street. I was like, okay, see you later.
It was.
It's so awkward.
It would. Yeah. I mean, it wasn't. It wasn't. I didn't. I had no time at all to be fanboy-y, but it was on the other side of the spectrum where I had no time at all to be fanboy-y.
So where was he going? Across the street, he said?
Yeah. So they were. So what it was is they had this showing, and Lucas Turnbloom was there, and he had a table, and he was drawing and signing things and doing all kinds of really cool stuff. Yeah. And then they were closing up the show at 4, and then everyone was going to go. So the museum is on one side of the street, and across the street is the Charles Schultz ice skating rink. Yeah. And then their store and all this really cool stuff. Whenever you guys are in town, I'll take you up there. It's really cool. Mm-hmm. So anyway, he was packing up because they were going to do something at the ice rink. Mm-hmm. I was like, okay, bye. I mean,
Did you go over to the ice rink?
No, that would be stalkers, dude. Okay, I'm gonna just go with you, okay, Lucas?
I can skate.
Did you walk over? Did you walk over? It's okay.
I did not. I went to my car. I let him be.
You went home. I forced myself to go to my car.
Him be. I was like, we're not. Yeah, no.
Trust me, he totally understands that. Have you seen on his Facebook? He has a picture of him and Joss Whedon.
No, I haven't.
He has this great picture of him and Joss Whedon, like, doing a selfie with Joss Whedon. The story is he's at San Diego Comic-Con, Lucas is, and he's walking around, and Joss Whedon is, like, alone, looking through, like, artwork somewhere.
And
really? And Lucas is wearing his...
Kind of went over to him, and he's, like, alone, and he's kind of like, he stalkered. He just kind of went, hi, I really like
And you. Lucas is not a small dude.
No,
Lucas is like 6'6".
So he's like, hey.
Yeah. Hi.
I like you.
You're Josh.
He's got this like great picture. Can I take a picture? And Josh is like, yeah, okay. Can you take a picture?
Just don't hurt me.
Josh is like, sure, hurry up, take a picture, whatever you want.
So he knows how to be a stalker too.
So good. So yeah, one of the other cool things, and this goes to show you, kids that are listening, if you have the opportunity to meet people that you look up to, a lot of times, especially if they're cartoonists, they're really cool folks. So one of the other people that I kind of met indirectly through your podcast was, every time I go to say people's names, the Norm.
Michael Jancy.
Michael Jancy, thank you. I was listening to him on your podcast, and he kept talking about, oh yeah, because in this area where I live, there's this over here, and I was thinking to myself, that's right down the street. And so I
can stalk him
into stalker fanboy. I was like, hey, I don't mean to be a stalker, but you're kind of in the area. Let me buy you a cup of coffee. And he's like, yeah, sure. So we sat there for 2 hours just talking about comic strips and
he was a professor at SCAD and all sorts of stuff. He'll talk.
Yeah.
He was one of the guests at Kenosha, one of the first ones, I think.
Yeah.
So to meet Michael a while ago was great.
Yeah, I've been collecting his books even before. It's just one of those things, kind of like I really love his style, so I just started buying his books to learn how to draw hands and learn how to draw a box head and stuff. So I had a bunch of his stuff already, and then when I saw him, or when I listened to him on your podcast, I was like, whoa, this guy's really cool. And then he's like, oh yeah, because this is where I live. I was like, oh my God, this is getting scary.
Now it's a sign. I must stalk him.
Yeah. So
it's okay.
So for those cartoonists that are listening to this podcast, if you show up on Tom's radio show,
I will meet you.
You will get stalked.
So scary. I will find you and meet you. We will have
the lotion in the basket. It puts the ink in the box.
What's in the box?
It stuck to it. Kind of popped in my head. Just thought I'd want to share.
No. I mean, I agree with you though. I mean, I think that for the most part, I mean, I like I've said, I've yet to have a really bad experience with any cartoonist, even some of the classics. I mean, I haven't had them on the show, but the first year I went to New York, the guys from Mad were doing a signing, and I interviewed and known Tom Richmond, who works for Mad now. He's one of the most amazing caricaturists in the world. But at the signing were guys like Mort Drucker and the guys who've been around forever. And I got to shake Mort Drucker's hand. I was like, oh my god!
Nice.
I mean, just grew up reading your stuff. That was
Nice.
cool.
My art just got better.
Exactly. Just like it was funny because Mort signs his name. The E at the end is 3 slashes. And when I sign my name, I've always done Racine with the E is 3 slashes, and I totally subconsciously took that. I don't think I ever made a conscious effort to do that, but I remember doing it. And then when I was going to meet Mort, I knew I was going to shake his hand. I told him the story. I said, I totally, when I write my name, I put the 3 slashes in. I apologize. I've totally taken your thing. And he's shaking my hand. He's this great old Jewish guy, and he goes, "You're welcome to it." And I thought I've been blessed by Mort Drucker. Oh.
There it is.
I'm not a 1,000th of the cartoonist he is, but I was blessed anyway.
Yeah. Has your podcast?
People should go to cons and their artists because most artists will love to talk about anything. So that's a very good point. Go to cons and meet people.
Yeah, and if anything, it's gonna reinvigorate you, and it's gonna recharge you and make you want to create. Because I tell you, after talking to Michael for 2 hours about comic strips, number one, I was hopped up on way too much coffee. Number two, he was giving me so many really cool tips.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I just need to go pick up a pencil real fast.
Yeah.
It was just really cool. It was a great afternoon. Has Tall Tale Radio ever come in handy in your career?
Yeah. I mean, when I started off, I was hoping that I could, like, you keep reading these things to podcasts and they get 10,000 listeners and they're doing this and there's $8 billion worth of advertising. And the problem is that comic strips are fascinating. People like them, but it's a tiny, tiny little market. But it's kind of funny. I mean, I'm fairly well known in this itty bitty niche, So a lot of big time pros know who I am. Oh yeah, I've listened to your show, and I'm like, what? You listen to my show? Because,
me?
Yeah. Well, I think cartoonists like to hear other cartoonists talk, and so one of the my core audience is probably nothing but cartoonists. And a lot of them, as they're inking, will listen to other cartoonists. So they love to go through podcasts because it's like white noise. You're listening, but you're not really listening. So I know a lot of big-time professionals listen to what I do because they like hearing other cartoonists. So it hasn't directly done anything for me. I gave up thinking that the podcast was going to become any kind of a moneymaker or anything like that a long time ago. But it's opened up a lot of doors. It opened up the Kenosha door. It opened up. I'm moderating panels at San Diego Comic-Con. I did last year. I hosted my own panel last year, and I hosted 3 at New York last year. And I'm sort of getting into the graphic novel world, especially the kids' graphic novel world. I know a lot of those authors, and they're asking me to moderate because, again, I sound better than they do. So stand up there and command attention for 2 seconds, and then they answer some questions, and it's nice. I mean, so it's helped me professionally that way, sort of obliquely. And it's fun to be on the radio again. It's always fun to do stuff, and I get to edit and have fun with it and do that. And for a while there, Justin and I did a podcast we were thinking about trying to do. We were going to call it Geek Papas. We were going to do dad stuff because we both have young kids, and that was fun. And we did about 6 or 7 episodes, but then unfortunately Justin had both knees replaced, and
Jesus.
Like a cyborg now. Yeah. Justin, you should have Justin on the show. He's far more interesting to me. He was a stuntman. He was Batman in a stunt show in Universal. He was a jester for 12 years in Renaissance fairs. I mean, guy's fascinatingly more interesting than I am, trust me. But it took it. He was a stunt guy, so it took its toll on him, and he's in his 50s now, so he had to have both knees replaced. And that sort of derailed the podcast. We just sort of got off track, and then about the same time, that's I think when Kenosha happened, and there was some more. Then I got syndicated on Go Comics. They put the podcast on Go Comics for a while.
Nice.
And I thought that was going to be, it's like, oh, great, Go Comics, the perfect place for it, because people read comics, they will listen to comics podcasts, and it didn't happen. Seriously, I mean, it's just like, wow, no one really wants to listen to comic artists talk about anything. So it was really weird. I really was kind of disappointed. It wasn't Go Comics' fault. It was they put up links. If I talk to somebody big, they put the link. Hey, listen to Tom Racine's. Mark Tatuli talks to Tom Racine. Oh, that's awesome. The numbers were the same. The numbers didn't change. So I ended up stopping Tall Tale Radio, I don't know, for 6 months or something. It was kind of nice. It was just sort of like, all right. And then I just sort of got back into it. I don't know why. I think I missed it. But I came back with complete renovation of my attitude about it. It was like, look, I'm just going to do it because I have a fun time with it. And it's opening other doors. It's opening up the condors and all that kind of stuff. So, you know, not condors like California condors. Totally different sort of condor. But, so.
So I have a question.
Yes,
How much would it cost to have you read a bedtime story to someone?
I thought about licensing my voice to some people. I don't know. You know, I always thought I'd be good at reading penthouse letters as Captain Picard. I always thought I'd be...
She walked into the sky deck.
Only took off her shirt, and it was exciting. I don't know why she was fixing the toner copier, but she was gorgeous. There's less money in that than you would think. I don't know. I'm not sure.
Let me catch my breath.
I tried to do that. I used to do this with some friends in college. We would read penthouse letters and as long as you could without cracking up. And you had to do it in like as serious a Shakespearean voice as you can, and it's really hard. You get like a paragraph in, and it's tough.
The reading was.
Yeah, the reading. Yeah, well, no, the rest of us wasn't hard because it was neat. It's actually a really good challenge. You're like, I'm going to read this straight as a Shakespearean actor. And like, oh. I don't think Shakespeare ever said throbbing members.
I think we need to have an episode. This sounds like a challenge.
I know. We're gonna have to.
We gotta get DeCosta on here, and we're gonna get Nicole back.
Oh my God, yeah. No, she'd melt me in a second, probably. Oh my God. Yeah. See, the trouble is men are easier targets. If you got a woman reading something sexy, we all fall on the ground.
I'm telling you, we should market this.
Yeah.
It's 1976 podcast.
See?
So you are the director of video production at the Spark Programs.
I am indeed.
What's all that fancy city talk mean?
Well, I'll give you the corporate spiel. Spark is we do curriculums for physical education, basically fighting childhood obesity and revamping the way people think about PE. I mean, I'm sure all of us grew up in PE, which was a bunch of big guys with, you know, giant rubber balls killing the nerds like me. Even though I enjoyed dodgeball, I loved dodgeball. I was fast as a kid. I got fat. I'm Jabba the Hutt now. But when I was a kid, I was fat.
Yeah.
So I enjoyed it.
I was a quick
Dodgeball was always those times have an epic movie happen in gym class where that one person that you thought wasn't supposed to catch the ball catches it and lasts to the end. It was always time to like prove something for me.
Yeah. Some of my best nerd moments were like beating some of those jerks down. I was like, yeah, I win!
Climbing to the top of that rope. Remember that? You hitting, ringing the bell. You become legendary for a good week. You did that. I remember doing it.
I can catch a ball, man, right back at you.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, we try not to do that. We do it much more inclusive. Mostly it's about getting kids moving and all that kind of stuff. And my job for the past 7 years has been doing the video work. Is teacher trainings, things for kids, and you know, all that kind of stuff. So video is something I've always been interested in. I wanted to be a filmmaker ever since I saw Star Wars, and Raiders of the Lost Ark was probably, I was like, I want to be Steven Spielberg. And now I'll be the old guy. And when I was in college, it would have cost $10,000 to get the 16mm film stock just to make the film. And where are you going to get an editing bay in Scottsdale, Arizona in 1980 something or other? I mean, it was just, it was one of those dreams that never happened. You know, I had a friend who had some video stuff, and we did some stuff, and it was fun, but it never went anywhere. Now, I mean, seriously, you pick this up, you have an HD camera in your hands, and I could film something with my daughter, and in 10 minutes, 700 people would see it. It's like, it's phenomenal.
With
it's just
music and
it's incredible.
Rolling
So
credits.
One of the great ironies of my life is when I'm 20, I had all of the creative drive in the world and none of the equipment. And now I'm sitting here, I just turned 50, and I have 5 HD cameras. I have lights. I have
like, you have everything you need.
So actually, it's sort of a next project. I'm going to try to work on little short YouTube videos that are my whole approach is going to be that I think that the internet and nerddom has become this I'm not surprising anybody here, but it's just a bunch of people screaming at each other all the time about how stupid Batman is or how great Batman is. And I'm always a middle road guy. I love talking about this stuff. I love discussing film. I love discussing comics. But nobody wants to discuss things. They want to scream at you about it. And it's annoying as hell. So I came up with this concept of the rational nerd, where I will talk about these things in a very BBC-like manner, using the voice that I have, and do examples. And since I have some background in special effects and After Effects, I'm going to make them look kind of snazzy. So I did this as a test, just for fun. You know, my podcast downloads, I don't know, a couple hundred, not a big deal. Sometimes somebody will spike, somebody big. Like I had the Zen Pencils guy on, and he's got this ridiculous following, so that number went through the roof. Everybody else about the same, you know, right here. I put this stupid video on Facebook as a test, just to say, hey, this is me talking about when Han shot first. That was my first test.
Yeah, I like that video.
1,700 views in like 2 days. I'm like, oh, I'm wrong. You know, obviously, I'm
so basically, you're overthinking it.
Yeah, exactly. Just, you know. But I think the thing is, it's just the way, you know. Speaking of Michael Janci, one of the things that Michael Janci said in Kenosha that really kind of, it may have been on my show too. I don't know, but basically, the whole concept of comics became famous and big because they were in the newspapers, because that's where people's eyes were. People were reading the newspaper all the time. They're failing because people aren't reading newspapers anymore. So what you need to do is, where are people's eyes? Follow their eyes and go to where they are. And they're on YouTube. You know, everybody in the world wants to see a 2-minute video. They don't necessarily want to listen to an hour-long podcast, but they will watch a 2-minute video. You know, there's my daughters love. We found these guys, these British guys called the slow-mo guys. They're in England, and they basically film things blowing up in slow motion, and it's become and they're amazing. They're very funny, they're very charming, and it's totally like a couple guys who just did this thing on a lark, and suddenly they got 10 million views, and they realized they had a career. You know, it's like all these careers are cropping up around people. Like, shit, I have a career. What the hell did that happen? You know? But it's not that I expect that to happen, but it's like, man, that's a way to go. You know, maybe I could get 5,000 people or 10,000 people. Maybe I could Patreon that up and get a little bit of extra money. Maybe, you know, I mean, Patreon is a great thing, but you need to have the product for it. And podcasting isn't going to do it. I have a core loyal group who might pay me a couple of bucks here and there, but, you know, is that really worth my time? Maybe it'll pay my hosting fees or something like that. But I want to look for something that maybe it's fun to do. It's fun to film. It's fun to do the special effects, and maybe I'll get some listeners. So that's kind of my next thing. I hope. We'll see.
That'd be cool. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
You did something similar back in 2012. It was called the Blogathon or Vlogathon. Blogathon.
Well, I was on the air for 12 hours.
12 hours. Yeah.
Yeah.
What was that all about?
That was for Kenosha. That was to raise awareness for Kenosha. I had a lot of people on. I had various people who were going to be in Kenosha on. It was basically that kind of thing. And I think it was also was that when I was doing my Kickstarter? I did a Kickstarter no, I did Indiegogo to buy a computer because I'm poor. Other people will buy my computer, and it actually worked out. I was actually pretty impressed, so that was pretty fun. But that was fun. I enjoyed doing that. I miss doing. I mean, I love doing this. I love doing live stuff because I did blog talk radio for a little while too. But again, it was sort of like I thought it was a cool idea, and it is a cool idea. But I was kind of hoping people would respond more. Maybe I'd get phone calls and stuff like that. But again, it's the niche. It's, you know, I'm mostly talking to comic strip people, and I'm talking to graphic artists and graphic novelists and things like that. And again, occasionally it'll spike out, but it just nothing was really. There wasn't enough response to warrant. You know how it is to do a live show. You got a lot of prep and you got to do all that kind of stuff. When I interview somebody, it's I do a lot of research, but then the interview is pretty self-contained, and then the edit is pretty quick and it's done. But doing a live thing, you got to be really prepped and ready to go, and you got to have things ready to go, and it was a lot of work, and it was just it was no payoff. So so it was kind of a drag. So
yeah, that's one of the things that I've learned by doing the live thing. Well, number one, really no one pays attention at 10 o'clock at night. Usually what they do is at the end of all of this, people will listen at work, and they're either downloading it and they listen to the show in the car in traffic, or they just log in on YouTube and they watch the show as they're working, which is fine.
Hi, everybody.
Yeah. So with that said, you have 200. You just recorded 236 episodes for Tall Tale Radio. what are some of the more important lessons? My Spanish is trying to break out.
Yeah, it almost came in there. Let's go. Here we go.
What are some of the more important lessons that you've learned while doing the podcast?
As an artist, or just in general from people?
Just in general.
You know what? We talked tonight a little bit. Eddie Pittman has been doing Red's Planet for 7 or 8 years or whatever it is, and we were talking about the idea of, did you ever reach a point where you like gave up or were thinking about pulling back? And he talked about, and this is something that I've learned really 2 major things about art from doing this podcast, and one is perseverance is what kind of separates people from, because a lot of people do a webcomic for a year and then they give up. And it's like, man, you can't do shit for a year and then give up. It's not exactly. The perseverance really, really does pay off. It does make you a better artist, even if it leads to the next project. Perseverance is very important. But something Eddie said tonight really was that why he didn't give up is because he was doing a graphic novel and he wanted to at least finish it. He felt that he had enough fans and people that he wanted to complete that journey. Mm-hmm. And I think finishing stuff is hugely important for artists, and I think it's something that I've fallen down on in my life a lot. I think if I look back on, got 50 great ideas, that's awesome. Which ones are done? I got 50 great ideas, man. Check this out. 50 great ideas. Oh, There's such power in finishing things, and it's the thing I tell young artists all the time. I hate to sound like a classic old man, but put in the hard work. It's not easy. Mm-hmm. It takes hours and hours and hours and hours. So don't just say, hey, I'm an artist. No, you're not. Work. Fucking work. Do your work. And finish. I would rather see 10 finished things that are imperfect than one thing you've been just toiling with and kind of doing because you think it's cool. Right. Finish it. Finish this. Right. That's huge. There's a lot of power. That's probably what I've learned. That's the kind of the thread that combines webcomic people who are just starting out to guys who have won Pulitzer Prizes. It's they do the work and they finish things. So that's the simple lesson to learn. And technology has gotten to the point where you have no excuse anymore. Yeah, yeah. Back, I'm not that much younger than you, but back when we were coming up, you had to go get paper and pencil and then ink and then take that, and there's no scanners back then. Imagine getting reference material. You go to the library. Yeah. If you didn't have your library card and
you left it at home.
It was literally uphill both ways.
Yeah.
And now you touched on it just a couple minutes ago. You have a whole editing suite in your pocket.
Yep.
Yeah. From cameras to lights. Yeah. Anyway, I'm getting on my old man rant too.
And your music sucks. Turn it down.
Okay, don't get me started on that.
The flip side of that, though, is something. Again, I keep coming back tonight. It was a really good podcast tonight. But Eddie had pointed out that he actually asked us the question, me and Lucas. He says he struggles like an artist does with sort of that ADD thing. What distracts you? And we were talking about one of the biggest distractions is the computer. It's the internet. It's that stupid Facebook and the stupid Twitter. You'll spend 20 minutes on Facebook and you go, screw it. What's on Twitter? Screw that. You go back to Facebook. Screw that. And man, you can waste time. And I am the biggest sin guy of that. The biggest. The words are escaping me. The biggest offender of that, because I have wasted hours and hours doing nothing, and then you kind of go, what the hell? And then that sends you into depression, because then you get mad at yourself, and then you go that whole I suck, and you go all the way down. But technology can also be a hindrance. So it's sort of that you've got to really watch that aspect of it too. You got to balance that out. So balance is the key. Balance is the key. Let's talk about some old guys. So you didn't know that I did this. You didn't know that I did this, but I reached out to some of our friends on Facebook, and here's a little shout out to our buddy Byron Wilkins. Byron! Speaking of old guys. So I asked him if he wanted to ask Tom a question, what would it be? And he said, by the way, Byron Wilkins from the Webcomic Alliance, webcomicalliance.com. Would like to know, 1977, thecomic.com, yeah. With media in general, now that you have turned
half a century, that his words, not mine. How has the industry changed in the past 50 years, and what are the good and bad points to have come with it?
Oh. Small question there, Byron. Thanks. That'll well, one-word answer question on that one. Yeah. Byron just likes to say that because he's older than all of us, so we get to make fun of him. So, the newspapers obviously have been destroyed by technology, and maybe not destroyed, but boy, have they been crippled. And that changed everything. I mean, web comics changed the way people did comics because there was no guardian anymore. Anybody could do it, and that's great. But it really hurt the inside of that industry because they were sort of based on exclusivity, and now there's no such thing as exclusivity. And I think right now, Netflix and Hulu and all of those guys are doing the exact same thing to major studios.
Yep.
And if anybody's afraid right now, it's NBC and CBS, and because that whole concept of, you know, all the eyes in America are watching Carol Burnett right now, so we can charge $8 billion for this commercial. That ain't true anymore. No. You know, those numbers are gone. And so places like Netflix and Amazon come up and say, hey, we got billions of dollars, let's fucking make a show, you know. And a lot of these CBS is like, what? What do you mean? What's that mean? You know, so
right.
It's that
you can watch
the technology has it's changed. Yeah, and remember, television and newspapers, they were around for like 100 years doing this. They were the top of the game, man. That was it. And now it's wide open. It's like the Wild West. It's great, but it's a pain in the ass because there's still no way to monetize it for a lot of people. Sure, the gates are open, but and sometimes I laugh at I want to smack some webcomic people. And just because you can put a webcomic out doesn't mean you're going to get rich. And like, when can I make T-shirts?
Yeah.
Selling, but what the hell are you talking about? You know. So that, I mean, that's probably the biggest change, that every direct route to money. There's no direct route to Patreon, things like that are actually, I like them. I think they're a really good step in that direction because I love the idea of Patreon, sort of the classic patron of the arts. If I like something and it's created, I pay for it, and I like that. It sort of takes the middleman out of it, which is even better. And there are some people doing very well. I mean, Keith Knight does great on Patreon, and I think he's got a great audience for that. You know, he's kind of an indie cartoonist. He's never probably going to be hugely in the newspapers anyway, but he's got a huge audience who loves his work, so he can get.
There, his internet was
stuff like that is great. So I think that's probably the biggest change.
We might be back.
You're cutting out a bit. Welcome. Okay.
I think that's fine.
The internet.
No. We're doing so well.
We'll let the internet catch up.
Yeah. YouTube was like, that's too heavy of a message.
There's me going on that. No.
All right. I think you might be back.
I think so.
It might be a good time for...
Give it a second. There it is.
All right. I think we might. Maybe not. One trick might be if you have like Google Drive or Dropbox or anything like that, make sure that stuff is not updating.
It's like a little virus. It'll suck your internet to a crawl.
Otherwise, you might be back.
I think so.
You're talking to me? Who are you talking to?
You. Tom, your internet had a pretty big hiccup.
There it is.
It's trying to catch up.
Slowly but surely.
I'm shutting everything down.
Cool.
You're the only thing open.
There it is.
All right, cool. I think we might be good now. That'll be a perfect segue into this cool little game that we play.
Uh-oh.
Are you ready?
Brace yourself.
Tom Racine from TallTaleRadio.com. This or that.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to give you a couple topics. You pick one or the other, and then if you feel like expanding,
All right.
go ahead and expand. We're here for you.
Been expanding for years. That's
That
all
was
right.
a good one.
Tom Racine,
right.
this or that. Kenosha, Wisconsin, or Racine, Wisconsin?
Wow, shots fired.
Oh,
Wow.
wow.
Shots fired.
I'm sorry, Jack, but I've spent more time in Kenosha. And I
That's
guess
fine.
I'm gonna
It's
go
your
with
name.
Kenosha.
It's your name you're going back on.
I know. It was funny
He
when I
turned
first
his back on his own town.
first time I'd gone there. I go to Kenosha and I say to Ann, T-shirt, and she kind of goes, "I hate to tell you this, but it's kind of a dump." And I'm like, "Oh."
Oh.
Bad side
I'll go
of
with
the
Kenosha.
Kenosha it is.
2D or 3D?
It's a loaded question.
In terms of animation, can I take them?
Uh-oh. We're having too much fun.
Stop
YouTube
motion.
is throttling us down.
Bummer, dude.
We need like elevator music.
I know.
As we wait.
All right. I think Tom is back. So did you 2D or 3D? And
My answer would be am I back?
yeah, you are
Mhm.
kind of.
My answer would be I think it's all about character and story, and I think you can animate anything if it's got the right story and the right characters. I don't think it really matters. I'm kind of a 2D guy just out of
Very.
force of habit, loving Bugs Bunny and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think it really matters in terms of the animation. I think that's a watch.
Makes sense.
I'm in.
Secret of the Kill.
Oh, dude, your internet is brutal.
Yes.
Restart.
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead. And while he's doing that,
Just want to say I blame.
I think that's a really good point that he made.
Yeah, it was.
As far as 2D, 3D, it's kind of like, what do you like better, pencils or ink? Like,
Mhm.
I guess it doesn't really matter if the story you're trying to tell is garbage.
Yeah, it's just a tool.
Just a tool. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, I remember people got real uppity and all upset when Disney
Heated,
closed down their 2D department, and then they reopened it, and then they closed it again.
It's almost like they put a Band-Aid on it and like ripped it back off, and then put duct tape on and ripped it off again. Because if you worked there and went back and then went back again, you kind of feel salty the second time around getting let go. Even more, I would think.
And then to go even more granular, I was watching this guy talking about like flash animation and frame by frame animation. And he was breaking it down, and he was like legitimately upset with like, because you can tween whether you're doing Toon Boom Harmony or flat, or it's called animate now. Like, you can take a shape and you put it here, and then you
Sure.
can
Move
tween
it on down the line. You can tween
You
them.
can tween it.
Yeah.
And this kid was upset.
He's like, why?
He was why isn't this frame by frame?
He wants the in between.
I'm like, it doesn't really matter all that much. As long as what you're doing is entertaining, it's just a tool.
He got a little hipster on there on that part, right? He was yelling about the
Yeah, he
between
was all
frames.
preachy and stuff, and I was like, okay, so I know that you're not running an animation studio because you don't know how much it costs to do one one versus the other.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, dude was
Where
just
is this video?
Jack wants to laugh at him.
It's on YouTube.
Oh, I want to watch it.
What
And
was
then I want to troll him.
He got so serious. Jack's like, give me the link, please.
I'm trying to find it.
I need the link.
I'll try to
Jack's
find
writing
it.
down one
But
line.
yeah, like his example, I think he was looking at the new Tom and
Powerpuff?
Jerry's.
Oh, Tom and Jerry.
What's his name?
I don't remember. It's been a while.
Just put him on blast.
Yeah.
Make it.
Everyone starts shaking their fists at this kid. What do you mean? Ah, there we go.
That sounds better.
Hi, welcome back.
Hey,
I am the last one.
you're back.
I am the last one.
So we were just expanding on your answer to 2D versus 3D.
Oh, that went through? Good. That was pretty good.
All right. So similarly, do you prefer traditional or digital?
Oh, you're going to embroil me in that one. I know that gets people with people.
I know the answer. I just like to see you get lathered up.
Yeah.
I've said all my life. Hey, well, yeah.
Hey,
I didn't know where to go with that, so I stopped. I've said all my life with the computer, with my knowledge of Photoshop, it's a glorified airbrush. I don't think it's the technology, it's the art behind it, and I think that's the only thing I see is younger people who maybe only have digital. I think there's a lot to be learned traditionally, but I don't think it makes you a better or a worse artist. I think the only question comes down to whether or not you think it's important to have an original eventually to hold in your hands, because I think that's an issue with certain things. Like, you go to a museum, or you see a Jack Kirby page from the Fantastic Four from the 1960s. That's awesome. Is it going to be as awesome when you're at a museum in 20 years and you see a digital page from somebody's comic today? I don't know. Is it going to be as awesome? I don't know.
Or like during one of your rants, you're like, "What's a museum going to look like in the future? Just a bunch of hard drives."
Mona Lisa, they got the pixels. It's awesome, So I don't know. I mean, I don't think there's an inherent thing. I think it's more, but there is a tangible thing. We have artwork that dates back thousands of years, literally thousands of years. When I went to Egypt, it was awe-inspiring to touch something that was thousands of years old. I don't know if we have that with digital, but I don't think the skill level is any different. I don't think it means you're less of an artist if you do purely digital or not. I don't think that's the issue at all.
Yeah. Yeah, and one of the cool things, we keep bringing up the Charles Schultz Museum. When you actually go in there and you see his boards with all the drawings in it, or on them. Number one, I'm amazed with the size. Like, for some reason, I'm thinking this poor guy, he's just drawing in like 3-inch tall, 6-inch wide thing. It's not. Like, these are big, monstrous pieces of artwork. They're really big and really cool to see. Yeah. Whereas, and I know I'm guilty of it. I think my addiction to digital is more growing up poor and like if I waste this paper, it's not going to be cool. Whereas digital, I'm just able to work on all kinds of garbage and be like, okay, virtually throw that away.
Delete. Doesn't somebody here work for DreamWorks? Don't they?
Yes.
Yeah.
I do.
You guys are all digital. I mean, it's all Cintiq, right? I mean, all your storyboards, all that stuff.
Yes, it is now. Yeah. But
I mean, it speeds things up. I mean,
of course it does. It totally does, and it feeds right into the rest of the pipeline, to the CG pipeline, and it's faster for revisions and easier to share, and all that type of stuff.
Put a lot of interns out of work. Nobody's scanning things anymore. But other than
yeah,
not just waiting in line at Starbucks.
Yeah,
right.
No, actually, the funny thing is we have the opposite. We have interns to print things out.
Nice.
We felt there wasn't enough paper. We need more paper waste.
Yeah.
We went backwards.
Like we invested all this time and money and technology to not have paper. Let's print more paper things.
It's print. An intern shows up at Jack's door. All right, print this out, and then he prints it like one too many times on purpose. So that means they have to run back the times.
Now take this in
sorry.
One of the people that had been on Tall Tale Radio is John Sanford.
Mhm.
He actually sits down the hallway from
Yes.
Jack.
I know. Do you guys know each other? Or?
I don't know him really that well. I have seen him. I know the boisterous voice.
Not quiet. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a director over on Sherman and Peabody, I believe.
Yeah. Yep, that's what he's doing now. He was doing Dragons TV for a while. And, what I love about John is I met John, God, I can't remember where, but he was either on the show or he's a friend of a friend or something like that. But a lot of people in animation are very circumspect about what they can say and what they can't say. And, it's the industry stuff. Sometimes they can't talk about certain things or they try to be nice about certain. John is just like, that fucking sucked. I fucking hate it. John Lasseter, fucking and I'm like, this is awesome. So I love John. He goes,
Oh, really?
you're getting he's telling you what he thinks, man. That's awesome.
Goes in. He's like, whatever.
So good.
It's us bald guys hang together, man.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Tom Racine, this or that. Instagram or Twitter?
More of a Twitter guy. Actually, gotten off Twitter recently because it was sort of I did a self-imposed thing. I hate to be a big nerd, but I actually the last month before Star Wars, I pulled way back on social media because I was convinced somebody was going to say something to ruin it.
Yeah.
It's like I didn't want to go out of my way to be that nerdy, but I was starting to see stuff, and all these people are speculating. I'm like, I don't want to speculate. I want to see the movie.
Yeah.
And that's another nerd rant I'll go on because I think that we speculate way too much. I think it ruins movies when people spend all their time speculating on every little frame
Yep.
of a trailer. It's like, let the guys tell the story. Let them act. Let them unfold in front of you for 2 hours, and then we'll talk about it. But if you go in with preconceived notions, you're going to be disappointed because the notions in your head are always going to be better than what's on the screen. Your adventure in Star Wars is probably better than anything they'll ever put on screen. So if you go in there and you've ruined it already, So for me, I just kind of pulled back. I just started seeing stuff I didn't want to see, and now I haven't been on Twitter in a while. So, so in general, Twitter. I'll go with Twitter because it's fun. You get a little 140 character, pithy comments, and then somebody laughs, ha ha, and you're done.
But what was funny was it was the Walking Dead season finale, whatever, and people started talking about it on the East Coast, and then people on the West Coast, like the friend of the podcast,
Shut up!
Yeah, Steve Tukowski just went on this rampage. Anyway, it was hilarious.
It's like, we have to self-impose these things now. At least give me 3 hours. Man, really? Can't you give me 3 hours?
Right.
Yeah.
All right. This or that. San Diego weather or New York food?
Oh. I complain about people in San Diego all the time because they're frickin' weather wusses. It's like, oh my God, it's 68. I'm freezing. Oh. I've ever because I beat someone to death in San Diego because they were complaining about how cold it was. So I'm gonna go with New York food for sure because San Diego and so they have no idea what weather is. They have no idea
don't.
what weather is. It's been a day. Oh my God! Oh.
When I first moved out to San Diego, I went to the gym. And I came running out of the gym. I was sweating. I had a T-shirt, pair of shorts on. It was like you said. It was in the 60s. And I look over, and there's someone. They're wearing a knit hat, gloves, and a scarf. And I'm looking at them like, "What the hell's the matter with you?" And they're looking at me like, "What the hell's the matter with you?"
I don't understand. They just don't get it, man.
All right, old guy music time. Michael Jackson, Off the Wall, or Michael Jackson, Thriller?
Ooh, that's a loaded.
Wow, that's not fair.
You can't do that one.
Oh, that's an easy one.
That's not an easy one actually, because
It's a very hard one.
Yeah, I love old Michael Jackson. I like the funkier old Michael Jackson. But Thriller was a huge album in my high school years. I think that's when it came out, and obviously it was like the biggest freaking thing in the world. So I'm gonna go with Thriller probably. As much as I love old
I would say off the wall.
Off the Wall's probably a better album, but Thriller.
1979. It's like
Thriller was definitely a game changer.
Michael's no longer little Michael anymore because of Off the Wall. Then he did Thriller.
But Thriller made it ridiculous. I mean, it was just like, hey, Michael Jackson's kind of famous, and then Thriller came out, and it was like, he's everywhere. He was everything.
Yeah.
And also, that video was that was a game changer video too. Because directed by John Landis. It was a film. It was like this 12-minute film, and we were used to seeing Duran Duran run around with scantily clad models. It was like, actually, holy crap, man! Look at that makeup.
Yeah. And then for you youngsters, this is back when we used to have to wait to watch the video again.
Even better, it was back when MTV played music. That's how old this is.
Yeah. How about that?
You see a
bunch of 16-year-old knocked up girls.
Did you ever see the behind-the-scenes things? He's got the werewolf makeup on, and it's like you can hear John Landis saying, "Okay, now scream like you're in pain," and it's so funny because he's got all the werewolf makeup, and he's like, "Ah!" And the sound effect in the video is like, "Roar!" He's like, "Ah!"
So good.
I love you, Michael. Come on, man. You're the least scary werewolf ever when that comes out.
All right. Comic artist or podcast host?
I'd rather be known as a comic artist. I mean, that was always my dream, and I've done pretty well professionally on a lot of different levels, but never on that level. Never on like, oh, people know me for my art. I mean, they may know me for a couple of little things I've done. I did a comic last year just for myself. It was about fighting the inner demons in your head, and that thing went crazy. Everybody loved that. I was like, well, that's really cool, thanks. But I mean, that's it. I personally, from when I grew up, I would have preferred to have been known as an artist. Podcasting's fun, and it's great. Again, like I said earlier, it's opened doors, and it's been very cool. And it's sort of a different path for me. I got syndicated, but not the way I thought I was going to get syndicated. It was kind of weird, but I would rather be known as a comic artist. Yeah.
What was that book? Not Tuesday. It was called The Last Lecture, I think it was. And it's this guy talking about when he was a kid, he wanted to work for Disney as an artist and blah, blah, blah. And then he goes on to talk about how if you have goals in your life, be ready, because life has a funny way to have you reach your goals, but not exactly how you thought they would be. So I always wanted to work for Disney. I always wanted to draw for Disney, but instead I worked on a bunch of Disney multimedia stuff. So I can say I've accomplished my dreams, just not exactly how I wanted them to be. But your that one post that you were talking about, if you guys haven't seen it, it's basically how the drawing or the comic strip is about this guy who's sitting at the drawing table and how he starts drawing, his inner demons come out, and it's all the negativity and all the doubt and everything that creeps up into an artist's brain as they're trying to create. And I know I shared it all over the damn place because it hit. I know I'm not the greatest artist ever. I'm harder on me than anyone else ever is.
We all are.
Yeah. So it struck a chord with me. Jack, Charlie,
Yes.
like, what are your thoughts on like self-doubt and actually doubting yourself to the point where you're not getting books out the door and you're not getting final pieces done?
I mean, that's the biggest. Yeah, that's the biggest killer. I think going back to what Tom said before about perseverance, it's like that will end you 100% of the time. I mean, I can't count on my how many people I've known that have given up because even if they've started and they've already got a pretty good body of work, and it's all of a sudden something they saw was like, well, I'll never be that, or I completed this, but it's not that. It's not what I wanted to complete, and it's like it's so easy just to stop before you've even started. So it's like back to perseverance. You just got to keep at it. Yeah.
Yeah, like Jack said, you gotta keep at it. But at the same time, I think I saw that picture too that he posted, and it made me think of every time I start a model or start modeling, or now we're in the age now where like before you had more control because you're pushing in points and you kind of carve it into stuff, and I felt like safe, and then you get the sculpting programs and stuff, and you don't feel safe because now it's more sculpting. And each time I think I coined this in college because I heard it. It's like I just have to walk through the
Well,
valley.
if you
of
heard it,
suck.
I don't know if you can coin it.
Well, I used to coin it because I used to say it all the time. Shut up and let me talk.
I can't have you.
And
I can't have you out here all.
And I just use it all the time. I used to just be like walking through the valley of the suck, and sometimes it takes longer than others to get out of it and get through it. But like you end up like it has to suck before it looks good, you know. And sometimes stuff I can be working on here at the house suck for like 2 months, and then all of a sudden like an hour and a half will change it, and I'm like, oh cool, I'm out of it. Okay, now it's starting to look great. And then the only thing, the sucky part about that is like at work, and it's just weirder. I think I have more problems doing stuff at home because now I'm critiquing myself, I guess, harder than I would critique myself at work. Because it's something weird at work where you still go through that valley of the suck, but it's like I have someone behind me, but I don't. And I get through it faster at work because I'm just like, oh, this has to get done and it has to be good because they're paying me to do this, you know. So like you don't think about it as much, but when you're here at home, you're like, I can sit here and work on this and like, oh, this
Yeah.
oh, this sucks. Okay, cool. We'll come back to it later. You come back.
Something I was trying to tell people is like you got to think of it this way: we've all done freelance art, right? I mean, we've all worked for other people. We've all done client work. We treat our clients with deadlines, and we're like, yeah, okay, I'll get this work done. I'll do whatever it takes. And then we treat ourselves like shit.
Mm-hmm.
And the key is to treat yourself like you treat your clients. You're a client. Your work is important. Your work is just as important, and if not more, probably more so. But we treat ourselves like shit. We got to remember that we are our own clients, and we have to set those deadlines and keep that same pressure. I'll bend over backwards for a client, and I'll dick around myself, you know, and
Right.
you got to get out of that mindset. You got to every now and then just stop and say, look, my stuff is just as important as a client's. I'm not paying myself, but I'm paying myself in the long run. So I think that mindset can help. I think it's just like I'm just a client. I've got to treat myself like that. I got to make time for me too. So.
Yeah.
I do that all the time. When I think to myself, like I can't even watch TV anymore without my iPad with me or something. I need to remain productive because I spend so much time on client work, and then I think to myself, back when I was working, when I was working in Hollywood, I used to put in at least 90 hours a week. Yeah. And then I would get home and just my eyes were burning out of my skull and everything. And then it got to the point where now I create my own schedule. And so I give my clients their time, and then I think to myself, when I was working for just them, I would put in 90 hours. So not that I'm trying to burn myself out, but I try to use that as motivation for my own stuff.
Yeah.
Like, yes, you do have to pay your own bills, all that good stuff, blah, blah, blah. However, at the end of the day, I don't want to work on other people's stuff. I want to work on my own stuff.
Right.
And I used to go 110% for other people's stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Am I doing 110% for my stuff?
Yeah. Even if it's 10 hours, anything helps. I mean, you just got to put that time.
Yeah.
Just keep momentum going towards that ultimate goal.
Just keep walking. You'll get out of the valley of the suck soon.
Now I have this image of a Catholic priest. Yea, though I walk through the valley of suck.
Yeah. I just feel myself like it looks good. And sometimes the crazy part I hate about it is like, all right, this is just not working. This is not working. But I've probably learned a lot on this. What if I just do it again? Oh, damn, it went by faster. I should have just started over like 2 hours ago.
Yeah.
Because I'm past where I was. I did it today at work. I was like, yeah, why am I beating this dead horse? This sculpt is not working. And I redid it and did it again, started from scratch again. In half an hour, I got farther than I did
Right.
yesterday, and I was like, "This
The
is
first part was
stupid."
important. I mean, I think the
Yeah,
other key to realize that wasn't a failure. That was
yeah.
you learn.
You learn, yeah, yeah.
That's I
So
think
I
the
think
other.
doing it at
And
home,
sometimes
yeah,
we case that in failure. That's not failure. That's just education. I mean, we just
yeah.
got to keep realizing that's just another step in the process. I hate to be inspirational, but I always remember
No, but yeah.
No, that's good.
Edison said that about it took him like 100 tries to make the light bulb. And
Right.
somebody asked him, well, how did you keep going when you failed 99 times? He said, I didn't fail 99 times. It was a 100-step process.
Yeah.
I love that because that's what it was.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah.
And some of these things it's so true for everything. You're gonna get through it, and you're gonna learn something better, and you'll get faster at it.
And you learn more from your failures and your successes. We all know that. I mean, you learn a ton
Yeah.
more.
Right.
Of course.
Right.
You know? It builds up after a while. I mean, and then again, that's where the internet kicks in. Can be a pain in the ass because sometimes the internet does get overwhelming. I'll see, you know, one of the issues I've had with my own podcast is that I go through depression times where I think all I'm doing is pimping other people's work and not doing my own. I'm making other people look great. I'm interviewing other people, but I'm not doing a damn thing, and that can be tough because you're like, well, I am doing something. But it gets that artist mindset where you see somebody's amazing work, and I love people who say, "Oh, here's my warm-up sketch, and it's better than anything I've ever drawn in my life." Put a pencil in my asshole, and I drew this today. Oh, shut up!
Yeah.
People. Oh my
Yeah,
god!
it's so. I'm the same way.
Inspiring and not inspiring at the same time.
Yeah. Any of the Facebook groups or any of the art stations or any of those other ones. Look at this 15-minute warm-up sculpt I did in ZBrush. It looks amazing. Or
How about it?
I do that with Inktober. It's like I try to like keep Inktober fast and loose, and other people are like, you know, this is the best thing I've ever inked in my life. That's not what Inktober is about. Come on, people.
Yeah. Yeah. A pencil in my asshole. That was magic. Absolute magic.
Yeah. Good radio, that was good radio.
And the cool thing is, you know, going back to technology, you know, the ability to sit in front of the TV and watch something, you know, at night when you're unwinding, and then having, you know, the iPad Pro and the pencil thing, all that stuff is really cool, and you could just throw down and just get something down, and if you don't like it, delete it and just keep on moving. And
actually, I'll pimp the iPad because I recently got an iPad Pro for work, and I got the pencil. I wouldn't have bought one myself, but I got it, and I find myself drawing a lot more. I mean, I haven't drawn in a while. I've kind of like put that aside for a little bit, but all of a sudden I find myself drawing. I drew something for a friend of mine just as a joke, and then I did this and I did that. I really like it because exactly that. I feel like I can just kind of, you know, I take the trolley into work. I'll sit there for 15 minutes and draw. So I'm doing a lot more of that. The technology actually, I've had iPads before, but this is the first time, I think, with the pencil and stuff. It really has inspired me to do more work. It's kind of cool.
yeah,
It's not very, but it's work. You know.
What's you guys' opinion with, you know, talking about mobile and creating more? It seems like Adobe is going more towards all this mobile, all these mobile apps, and, you know, Adobe Sketch and Adobe this and blah blah blah. Are we maybe seeing the end of a desktop?
I don't think it's that, but I do want to know the thinking behind it, like that last Adobe keynote that they had, where there's so many different, you know, the font program that we talked about on the other podcast. I forget what it was called, and how everything's on the iPad that they have is such a big push. I don't know if it's like becoming more mobile in the office space or in big companies so that you can have stuff instead of, you know, in front of you in meetings or something. You know, maybe that's it. It's just kind of being more convenient. Maybe it's doing away with the laptop, you know, because everybody likes to bring an iPad or something like that to a meeting that I notice at work. Yeah. Rather than, and then we still have the laptoppers, but, you know, maybe that's what it is. But it's definitely interesting in terms of like what they're trying to see. I just don't understand what it is yet. Why does Adobe need to be only on a laptop in terms of like Photoshop or a font program when you need more power? I would think.
Yeah.
Uh,
I think people are. I mean, I like the interconnectivity of stuff. I like that I can work on my iPad, throw it into my Dropbox, and then go to my desktop.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool. That part I really like. And sometimes I'll do sketching on the iPad as a base layer, because it's easier to sit back on a couch and draw, and then go do the serious work later.
Mm-hmm.
And the iPad Pro is pretty powerful. I mean, I got the keyboard case for it, and I could see it replacing my laptop for a certain amount of things. And as a video editor, I kind of like the interactivity of touching and doing stuff. I can totally see desktops getting that way, and
Yeah.
your Pro would be so much easier if I could just kind of pinch a thing and do stuff. And so kind of a combination of mouse and actual screen stuff would be pretty cool. I mean, I think that would be a fun way to go. And then it'll be Tom Cruise in Minority Report, and I'll be editing like this.
That's what I want. That's what I want. I want it to be able to ball stuff up and like Iron Man, like Tony Stark, and just throw it across the room. And I want a Jarvis. That's what I want.
yeah.
But with Sandra Bullock's voice or Selma Hayek, that would be.
That's where we're getting.
No, I want the British dude for some reason. I don't want a female voice. I have enough of that. Yeah. I just want a nice English dude that's always going to tell me I'm right.
You want him to be polite.
Polite, and he tells me I'm right.
All he's ever going to do is tell you, Charlie, I am the last one.
I am the last one.
Highlander.
What sort of porn would you like tonight, sir? Well,
all right, we just pushed past an hour and a half, but I wanted to touch on this topic before we go.
Touch it.
Touch it.
Batman versus Superman coming out on DVD.
Can do that.
Possible R-rated director's cut.
It's a reach.
Who wants to go? Bloodbath. Who wants to go?
I'm gonna let Tom go first because you're the guest.
I am the go. Extremely nice of you.
We have manners in this house.
I won't be here all night with this. I'll try to be faster. I grew up a Marvel kid. I love the Marvel movies, but I'm not a Marvel versus DC guy because I just want a good comic book movie. I like the Batman movies. I grew up watching Christopher Reeve as Superman. I mean, I'm fine with all that. I'm never going to get into that stuff. I just don't think DC has a handle on their characters like Marvel does. And I said like 6 years ago when they handed the reins over to Christopher Nolan. Now, the Nolan Batmans were pretty good. The first one I thought was great. Ledger was great. The second one. The third movie I think is a little overrated, but they were fun. Batman can go down that road. That's cool. But 5 or 6 years ago, I said when they were trying to create a universe, they should have gone to Bruce Timm, who did the Batman animated series, Superman, and the Justice Leagues, which were amazing.
Oh, I like you, Tom.
And that whole crew knew those characters, and I wasn't even a DC guy, so some of that was my first real experience with some of the Justice League people. I have those on DVD. I own them. I'm 50 fucking years old. I owned the Justice League on DVD. It was one of my favorite things.
Amazing.
Last year at the New York Comic Con, there was the Justice League voice cast came back together, and it was the greatest thing ever. It was so cool. But I would have gone to Bruce Timm with a blank check and a giant truck of money and said, take over and do whatever you want. Because I don't think Zack Snyder and Christopher Nolan are the right guys for this. And even to float the idea of a Superman movie being R-rated is just... They have no idea what they're doing, as far as I'm concerned. I think
you know what? You're gonna have everybody around Superman cussing up a storm and all these nude women. What's Superman gonna do? He's gonna stand there.
What's going on? You know,
it doesn't. The minute he gives some kind of innuendo,
but is it all that, or is it there's violence ratings and
well, it is. But my
scenes?
point is, I have a 10-year-old and a 7-year-old, and I will not take them to an R-rated Superman movie. So I mean, I know the theatrical release is not. That way.
Yeah, there wouldn't be any violence, though. Superman pulled his punches on purpose.
Exactly. Like, it misses the
kill everyone.
Yeah, it misses the point of Superman completely. And I think that just it points to a much deeper problem with the DC universe, I think, in terms of movies. It's funny because they've always done great with animation. They're doing great with television. I think The Flash, and I've watched some of the
really good.
Flash is amazing.
They're great. You know, Supergirl is a
Daredevil is great.
We had a guy that worked on the Flash last.
They're nailing those things down. Great. Green Arrow. I mean, they know what they're doing on TV. Fantastic. Movies, they're not doing a very good job. They want.
I don't know why DC does that. I don't understand.
Well, they want Marvel's universe, and then somebody at the top said, "Oh, it can't be funny. We've got to be different than Marvel." Ugh. Okay, so the way to go is apparently have Superman snap people's necks and then put an R-rated version out. Woohoo! It's like, no, you're missing the point. So that was my rant. Thank you for coming tonight. That was.
No.
How do you guys feel? This is new news, so I haven't really heard too many people talk about it.
It's a reach, I think. I don't, because one, you have to worry about if the movie's good, right? Because if the movie's not good, people will still buy the DVD, I guess, but I'm not buying a DVD if I thought the movie was okay. I don't think a director cut's going to save it, and I don't know what they really would do with a director's cut in it. Besides more violence, because then it's going to run into what happened, what the critics said for the first one, where it was 9/11 in Metropolis and people died and all this other stuff, and they played up a different angle. I salute them because no one ever thinks about that in comics. Like, you just level the whole city and you don't get nothing happens. Well, I take that back. They do it. Marvel does it all the time with Civil War and everything else. They got tired of superheroes and X-Men leveling cities and stuff, and changing space-time continuum and stuff, and they started persecuting people, like told Spider-Man to take off his mask, and he bitched up like a little girl. But anyway,
that's a different rant.
Different rant. I won't get into like the whole Tony Stark being an alcoholic and doing the same thing, whatever. So I think
we should have opened with this one.
I just think that it's a reach, and it's funny because Deadpool was still a Marvel movie, and then they're like looking at Marvel, and they're like, "Oh, yeah, go ahead. Well, we can't make it rated R now. They won't let us do that. All right, throw it in the DVD because maybe we'll get some more pre-DVD sales because people will see it. It's a grab. It's like a cash grab because people will be like, oh, rated R version, sweet. They can see Superman cuss somebody out. No, you're not gonna see.
Yeah,
that.
It's totally. It's just I could care less. I'm not a huge superhero movie guy, but it's totally just. It's cash just the marketing. It's just a cash grab. What I'd rather see, a headline I'd rather see is Superman versus Batman will actually have a good story.
Yeah, I hope. Because you're already gambling. You got what you call it in there. You got Batman.
And director's cuts, I just want to see more stuff. I'm sure in Age of Ultron, there were scenes that they cut just for time. And
of course,
on the home version, put it on there. I'm a huge Lord of the Rings fan. I love the extended edition Lord of the Rings because
I wish they would do that. Yeah, I wish they would have an extra hour on the Guardians of the Galaxy or something.
Exactly. I should watch that. I'm fine with that, but it doesn't have to be R-rated. That's the thing. Yeah. And I think my favorite so far is the day after Deadpool came out, James Gunn, who directed Guardians of the Galaxy, wrote an article or a little piece for Entertainment Weekly basically saying he knew that Hollywood was going to get the wrong message, that they were going to see this box office.
I saw that too.
They're going to say, oh, everything's got to be R-rated now. And he said they missed the point. Deadpool was R-rated. That's great. But now they're going to try to do everything. And here we are. About a week later, somebody trying to make their same Superman.
And they still do it. No one talked to them in that room. They still... Yeah, go ahead.
To kind of support Tom's point, you need to take a look at who your characters are. Yeah. The Deadpool character fits the R-rated thing because he was always a smartass. He was always into butt stuff.
Yeah, well, Deadpool was an anomaly. He made fun of himself, and he always broke the fourth wall.
Right.
Whereas
Superman doesn't stand for that. Superman is supposed to be what's good in people. It's supposed to be what kids look up to. Kids aren't necessarily going to look up to Deadpool.
No.
Well,
at least you don't want them to.
But let me play devil's advocate and then say that just because a movie is R-rated doesn't mean a character in it is. You can still have a Superman that is the Superman ideal you want him to live up to, but the other characters or other themes are not.
Yeah, I agree.
But then you have Superman you might have a guy who runs out and goes to Flash. He's butt naked under his rain jacket, whatever. He opens his rain jacket. Superman is just gonna either laser his nuts or something. Superman is supposed to be the guy that squashes all of that.
Yeah.
Right.
Also, they're trying to set up.
If you gave Carlos Superman powers, you would now have an R-rated movie. Why? Because you can't give someone like me an X-ray vision and not expect me to be outside the girls' locker room looking through the walls. That's my jam. That's
We've already
not
talked about his
Superman,
stalker
though.
tendencies, so superpower stalker tendencies.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, well, I hope it's good for DC's sake, though.
I hope it's good too. I really do. I mean,
Because they ruined Green Lantern.
How would you take
Yeah.
how would you take a movie where they demolish the whole entire city, and then label it with rated R? Like
Well, you
maybe
should show
blood
the people.
splatters? Like
Yeah, you show the
how
people
do you take a
die.
violent
Basically.
movie and make it rated R?
yeah, they just
It's
show.
more
It's probably
graphic.
More violence? That's
Yeah.
stupid.
They'll
Yeah,
amp up
they're showing the bullets hit and stuff, basically, and it's like
they'll amp up the Batman scenes and stuff like that. But it's just, I just don't like Superman being associated with an R-rated movie. I want to take my kids there. I want to be able to buy the DVD, and it's just, it even bothered me recently. The Hobbit, the third Hobbit movie, put out the extended edition, and it was rated R.
Really?
Yeah, because they added more orc violence. Now that's fantasy violence. It was already pretty violent, but for some reason it amped up a bit and they made it R. But I didn't buy it right away because my daughter Katie loved the first two, and we saw the third one in the theater. But it actually gave me pause to go, well, what did they add? Now I have to check it out.
Yeah,
you know?
well, they're some weird scene that you don't want to like
Exactly. What did they
realize as you watch it at family movie night.
Yeah. I mean, we're pretty open-minded, and I'm never going to freak out about that stuff. But I like to know, especially when it's
Yeah.
You do the old school thing, Mom. Just cover your eyes, because it's like this is a really good movie. We're gonna keep watching. Just cover your eyes for a second.
La 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 la. Okay,
cool.
you can look.
Go give me some more popcorn at this time.
Let's talk about, and we can wrap up after this. But, so I have a little girl that's not so little, but she lives in Germany. She was visiting me in Chicago, and she says she was in her teens, and she goes, "Let's go watch Superbad."
Oh,
And me not really understanding what the movie was, so we're sitting there watching Superbad, and I'm eating popcorn, and the guy starts drawing a bunch of dicks, and I'm losing it. I'm laughing so hard, and I remember that I'm here with my kid. What are we watching?
Parenting is a whole other story, man. That's a whole different world. Yeah.
I got tricked.
I got a whole rant on why I love the movie Heavy Metal, and I've always wondered why there's not more adult animation stuff. And I know a lot of it's financial. I mean, it's expensive to make animation, and that kind of movie tends not to make a lot of money, so you got to keep the animation cost down. But I think there was a whole market for that. And I think the other point I was gonna make was that sometimes it's reverse. I think that's why the Punisher movies didn't do well, because they weren't R-rated. It's like, how do you make a Punisher movie PG-13? Punisher should be set by,
it's in the name.
Yeah, 1970s Martin Scorsese film. I mean, come on, man, let it go. Don't make it PG-13. I don't want a PG-13 Punisher. I want an R-rated Punisher. So,
Know your characters.
Put me in charge. Everything. I would have given money to Bruce Timm, and everything would be fine by now. See? So.
Bruce Timm is like, get that guy on the call. All right. That was fun. I love this episode. I'm glad, Tom, you came on. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to hang out with us.
It was great. I like being on this side. I don't have to prep much. I just sit and
and rant.
I just rant.
Shake your fist. Damn you kids!
Get off my lawn!
So, Tom, if people wanted to check out your podcast and what you've been up to online, where can people find you?
TallTaleRadio.com. You can get it on iTunes. You can subscribe to iTunes and follow it on Facebook. There's a Facebook page, TallTaleRadio.com, and I'm on sort of a 2-a-month schedule now. I'm not doing it every week. I record on Wednesdays, and my job actually has gotten a little bit busy with travel, doing some video around at various places, so I've had to sort of scale back a little bit, but I do have some good stuff coming up, and very exciting. And then con season starts sort of in May and June. I gotta start getting ready for San Diego, and then I'll have Kenosha in September and stuff like that. So that's the best way to follow me. TallTaleRadio.com.
Awesome. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And on Twitter, it's at Tom_Racine.
Yes.
Boom. And Charlie B. Williams, the third. Where can people find you?
You can find me on my website, which is cargocollective.com/Charlie B. Williams. You can find me on that amazing site known as Pinterest, and look at some of the stuff I like to look at,
Tom,
or
if you have any
ADD,
questions
ADD
about
out.
Pinterest, Charlie would be more than happy to talk to you about
It's
it.
Charlie BW3. I'm on Instagram at Charlie BW3 also.
Mr. Pinterest. And Jack Cat
That was a joke.
I don't think it was.
Yeah, it was
I
in
am
between.
at
I couldn't get my
sketch-
name.
I'm at
every time.
sketchbookjack.com and sketchbookjack everywhere else.
Excellent. Thank you, sir. Thank you both for being here. And I am Carlos Gomez. You can find me at carlosrgomez.com. You can also find me on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and Pinterest under the name Coconut Justice. This has been the Sketch Zone podcast. You can find us at sketch.zone on Twitter, at sketchzone, facebook.com/thesketchzone, youtube.com/sketchzone podcast, and of course you can find us on Stitcher, SoundCloud, and iTunes. Thank you all so much. Have a good week.
See you guys.